I hope you guys are ready for a long one because this is going to be an advanced pure Snake Eye combo and interaction tutorial. And before we jump on in, I do want to remind you guys that the Popular Monsters Metal Field Center is available for pre-order on my website, Insane TCG. Just look at this art, it's amazing, featuring some of the key components of this deck, and I personally love this deck, and I love these monsters, so go ahead, check it out, make sure you guys get yours. It is a limited quantity of just 100, so act now before they're out. So to kick off this advanced guide, I do want to show you the big combo from the previous combo tutorial that I did, but a reworked version because this has been innovated and this is much more effective, and I will go over why as we are playing it, and then after I show you guys the updated combo, we're going to go ahead and go through some interactions on how to play through certain interruptions. So previously where it was a 2-card combo using just your Ash and your Diabellstar, now it is a 2.5 card combo because it does require a discard, but that discard can be anything, so since you're opening up with a hand of 5, you're pretty much guaranteed to get this off, so let's show you guys how it works. So we're going to start things off the same way that we did the previous combo. We're going to go ahead and normal summon out our Snake Eye Ash and activate the Snake Eye Ash effect. This is going to add our copy of Poplar. Poplar is going to be able to activate its effect on add to summon itself and then activate its on summon effect to add us our copy of Divine Temple. Now we're going to hold on to the Divine Temple for a minute because we don't want to activate it until we know whether or not the Diabellstar resolves, and we'll go over those in the interactions after the combo as to why we're going to do that. But the next move here is to go ahead and link off the Poplar into our copy of Linkuriboh, which will activate the graveyard effect of Poplar to place itself back in the spell trap zone. Now here what we're going to do is we are going to summon out the Diabellstar by sending the Poplar, so it's essentially acting as a free send fodder as well, and that will activate the on-summon effect of Witch to then go ahead and set our copy of Original Sinful Spoils from our deck to our side of the field. Now that we know that the Witch has resolved, we are free to activate the Divine Temple, so we can go ahead and do that, and what we're actually going to use the Divine Temple for is we're going to go ahead and place a copy of Snake Eye's Flamberge Dragon from our deck to our spell and trap zone. Now this combo is fully Nibbed proof. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the full combo without the worry of Nibbed, but then we'll backtrack it to this point and show you what happens if you get Nibiru'd, just so you guys know how to play through certain interactions. Now that we've resolved our temple, we're going to go ahead and activate the Original Sinful Spoils, sending the Linkuriboh to the graveyard as cost. This is of course going to summon out the Jet Synchron. So this is summon number 5. So when we're backtracking later on in the video, we're going to go to this point to show you guys what to do if you get Nibiru'd. But our next move now is what makes us fully Nibbed-proof for the remainder of the combo. We're going to go ahead and using the Witch and the Jet Synchron, we're going to synchro into our copy of Borreload Savage Dragon and activate the Savage Dragon effect on summon, targeting the Linkuriboh in our graveyard. This is going to equip it and give us an Omni Negate. The next move that we're going to do is use the effect of Snake Eye Ash to send itself and the Flamberge to the graveyard to summon out our copy of Snake Eye Oak. Now what we're going to do here is use the effect of Flamberge as Chainlink 1 and chain block it with Oak as Chainlink 2. Oak is going to summon back any one of our level 1 monsters, it doesn't matter which one, and Flamberge is going to go ahead and summon back the other 2, leaving us with 4 monsters on the field. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and using the Jet Synchron and the Poplar. It doesn't need to be those 2 as long as you leave the Oak on the field. This is just the way that I like to sequence it, but we're going to go ahead and link those off into a copy of IP Masquerena. Next, what we can do is we can use the IP Masquerena and the Ash. This is going to go ahead and go into our copy of Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess can activate its effect to resummon back out our Flamberge. I like to put it in defense just because Lightning Storm is seeing an uptick in popularity, but you really don't need to. It honestly doesn't matter. But then we can use the Flamberge effect to go ahead and summon out, or not summon, but rather place the IP Masquerena in our spell and trap zone. Next up, and the reason that we left the Oak on field, because we need to make sure that we are no longer fire locked, we're going to go ahead and use the Oak to send itself and the Princess. This might seem counterproductive because you're losing a lot of link material, but I promise you it doesn't matter. This is going to summon any level 1 from the deck, and I just realized that I forgot to stack that level 1. So we're going to go ahead and put the Birch on field. Now, a lot of people are not playing the Birch. They are playing the Ash over this, but I don't like wasting an Ash. I'd rather play the one of Birch to be able to freely summon it and not have to waste additional resources in the deck. So it really doesn't matter, you just have to summon any level 1 here. So another Ash if you want to waste the Poplar, but I really like the Birch. Next up is where our discard comes in handy. We're going to go ahead and activate the graveyard effect of Jet Synchron to discard the card in hand, and that is of course going to summon back out the Jet Synchron. Now that we have the Jet Synchron and our level 1, we can go ahead and synchro these off into our copy of Formula Synchron, and that is going to give us an additional draw. The draw does not matter, but that kind of just replaces the discard fodder that we had, and now this is the end board, and this is a little bit better than the previous one that I showed you guys for a couple of reasons. First off, we have the Promethean Princess in Graveyard, which we didn't have in the previous combo. This board also doesn't play into a lot of interruptions. A lot of people are playing Super Poly, and this board is not Super Polyable. So what you need to do from this point is then make sure that you sequence your stuff correctly. You want to try and use the Savage Dragon Negate before you summon the IP or do anything else. And the reason for that is because immediately following the Savage Dragon Negate, you're going to want to use the Formula Synchron to sync itself and the Savage Dragon into your Baron. Now, the reason that's important is because if you use the Savage Negate, and then you don't immediately use the Formula Synchro on Resolution, then they can go ahead and do something like Triple Tactics Talent to take something, and then even if you chain that to the talent, they're going to take your Baron, and you just want to make sure that you are playing through as many of those interactions as possible. And then you're, of course, going to be able to use either the Temple or the Flamberge to summon out the IP. The IP is going to be able to go into something like the Little Knight, and then you also have your Promethean Princess in the graveyard as well as the follow-up that the Flamberge is going to get you by summoning back any of your level 1s. You also have the Oak, which is going to be able to either summon or add back one of the other ones, and then you have the original Sinful Spoils for the absolute follow-up on the next turn. This is just the absolute wombo combo, and as long as you sequence your stuff correctly, you will probably win this game. Now, let's go ahead and backtrack it a little bit so we can show you guys what to do if you get Nibiru. Alright, so we've rewound the board state to a point before we activated the original Sinful Spoil, so we are still only on 4 summons. So we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of original Sinful Spoil to go ahead and send the copy of Link Rebo. This is going to summon out Jet Synchron as our 5th summon. Now, you could Nibiru here, but if you are playing against Snake Eye, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. Don't Nibiru here, because then that still leaves the Borreload Savage Dragon able to be used later on in a grind game. The better thing to do is to let them actually summon the Borreload Savage Dragon. That way, on the effect of Borreload Savage Dragon to equip a Link monster before it actually has its negate live, you can go ahead and Nibiru there, and that will put them off of the Savage for the grind game, essentially just making them waste the resource. So even though this is summon number 5 and the first nibbable spot, this is not where the best place to nib is. Not that it matters because the combo ends up being the same anyway, but if you are against Snake Eye, you want to just let them waste a resource. So we're going to go ahead and use the Jet Synchron and the Diabellstar. This is going to go into the copy of Borreload Savage Dragon, and now your opponent Nibirus you. So what's going to happen is you're going to go ahead and tribute your field, and I forgot to grab a token, so we're just going to go ahead and use a blank card. So you get your token, and then because your opponent special summoned a Nibiru, you're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Divine Temple to summon out your Flamberge. Flamberge is going to hit the field, and now because you have your Flamberge, them Nibiruing you did not matter. You're going to take the token and the Flamberge, you're going to go ahead and link those off into your copy of IP Masquerena, and what you'll do here is you will use the effect of Flamberge to summon back out your Ash and your Jet Synchron. Here what you're going to do is using the IP and the Jet Synchron, you're going to go ahead and link off into your copy of Princess, and now you can use your Princess to reborn out your Flamberge. Using the Flamberge effect, we can go ahead and set the IP into the Spell and Trap zone. That way we have follow-up for the next turn, and then we can use the effect of Snake Eye Ash that we haven't used yet to send itself and the Princess. This is of course going to summon out our copy of Oak. Here, Oak is going to activate, allowing us to summon out our Jet Synchron. And then now that we have our Jet Synchron back, what we can do is we can go ahead and use the Jet Synchron and the Oak, and this will synchro into a copy of Formula Synchron yet again. Now the Formula Synchron is going to activate and draw us a card. Again, the draw does not matter what it is, but this is going to be our end board, and that is a little bit less threatening than the previous end board, but we still set up a very formidable board through Nibiru. So now we are able to summon out our IP Masquerena either off of the effect of Temple or the effect of Flamberge. The Formula Synchron is going to be able to use itself and the Flamberge to summon out a Baron during our opponent's turn, so we'll be able to have that as well. And then the really cool thing is, because if you do that before you use the effect of the IP Masquerena, when the Flamberge resummons out your resources, the IP Masquerena will have more fodder on the field to then go into something like an Appaloosa for additional negates, instead of just locking you into something like the Little Knight for a banish as well. So it's a little bit like varied interruptions, but through Nibiru you still set up a very formidable end board. Yes, they do have the Nibiru that you have to deal with, but that's pretty easy to deal with, honestly, especially if you make the SP, you just banish the Nibiru on summon, and again, you're getting all the follow-up of the level 1s that you're summoning as well. Rewinding the game state, yet again, we are on our second interaction for that first combo, and this is going to showcase what happens if you get negated on the effect of your Diabellstar. So we're going to go ahead and summon out the Diabellstar once more by getting rid of our Poplar and activating the effect of Diabellstar. Let's say they use Imperm, Ash, Ghost Mourner, doesn't really matter, just some kind of way to negate the Diabellstar. That is why we hold on to the Temple, because now, whereas in the previous route we used the Temple to place the Flamberge, here what we're going to do is activate the Temple, and this is actually going to get us the Oak instead. Here we can then go ahead and use the Ash effect to send itself and Oak, and this is going to summon out our copy of Flamberge. Now that we have the Flamberge on the field, we want to use it as well as the Witch that we have. This is going to allow us to link into our copy of IP Masquerena, and then we can use the effect of the Snake Eye Flamberge to summon back out 2 level 1s, one of which has to be the Oak, because then Oak is going to be able to activate, summoning out our 3rd level 1. Now the next thing we want to do here is, using the Linkuriboh and the IP Masquerena, we can go ahead and go into our copy of Promethean Princess, and then using the Promethean Princess effect, we can go ahead and reborn the Flamberge and use the Flamberge to place the IP back in our spell and trap. Now we are firelocked and we want to get out of that firelock, so we're going to use the Princess and the Ash, linking both of these into our copy of Hida. Yes, unfortunately, we have to waste the Hida for this line, but it isn't the end of the world, because now that we are no longer firelocked, we can go ahead using the Hida, the Oak, and the Poplar, and this is of course going to get us into a 3 negate Appaloosa. So even through the Diabellstar getting negated, we end on 3 monster negates, the ability to summon our IP, again off of either the field spell or the Flamberge. IP is going to go into SP for 2 additional interruptions, and then the Flamberge is going to be able to summon back 2 of your level 1s, getting you guaranteed follow-up, as well as still having Princess live in the grave for an additional pop. So those are the 2 very big and important interactions for that combo to make sure that you are able to still play through the most common interruptions that you're going to have to deal with. Now that we've shown you guys combo number 1 as well as the way to play through interactions, for combo number 2 we are going to also be reworking a combo that I showed you guys previously. Now if you watched the last combo video, you'll know that I showed you a Snake Eye Ash OTK that has the ability to OTK through a board of 4 monsters. Now, that is a little bit more difficult if your opponent doesn't have monsters, because that combo was very reliant on special summoning back their monsters to gain your own advantage. So now I'm going to show you how the Snake Eye Ash is able to get you game on an empty board. So we're going to start things off by normal summoning your Ash, and this is of course going to add your Poplar. Poplar is going to be able to summon itself and activate its effect, which is going to add us the Snake Eye Temple. Now, this combo also plays around Nibiru. We are going to go ahead and activate the Temple. This will place the Oak from our deck to our spell trap zone, and then we can use the Ash and the Oak to go ahead and use the Ash effect and summon out the Flamberge. Now, this is summon number 3. For summon number 4, we are going to go ahead and use the Flamberge and the Poplar to go into IP Masquerena, and now we activate the Poplar as, or the Flamberge as Chainlink 1 and the Poplar as Chainlink 2, making sure that we are able to chain block our Flamberge. Poplar is going to target the Flamberge to place in the spell trap zone, and then the Flamberge is going to summon out 2 of your level 1s, one of which is Oak. That way you can summon out the 3rd level 1 as well. Now that we are in a nibbable zone, if your opponent Nibiru's you, you're able to summon out the Flamberge. Flamberge is going to place this IP back in the spell trap zone, and you still have a board, and you guys can figure that out because I've shown you guys enough of it already. I don't want to waste your time. Now what we're going to do is, using the Princess and the IP and the Poplar, we are going to go into our copy of Princess. Princess is going to reborn out our only fire that we have, just because we need the extra body. Now we can use the Princess and one of our level 1 fires to go into our copy of Raging Phoenix, because this is still important for the combo. We can then take the Raging Phoenix and link it off into the Zealantis. Now what we can do is we can use the Ash and whatever level 1 we have left, or whatever 2 level 1s we have left, depending on how you sequenced it, and this is going to go into our copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and believe it or not, this is enough for game, and it's all because of the effect of Zealantis during the battle phase. So you're going to go into your battle phase, you're going to attack 19 with the Phoenix, then you're going to attack 25 with the Zealantis. Then the Zealantis battle phase effect comes up to destroy cards equal to the number of co-linked cards. In this case, we have 2, we can destroy up to 2, but we only need to destroy the 1, because we're going to destroy our own Nightmare Phoenix. Now, because a fire monster was destroyed, that of course activates the effect of Raging Phoenix to summon itself back and gain the attack of the monster destroyed. So now we have a 2800 Phoenix plus the 1900 attack that it's gaining, and that swinging should be enough for game. If my math is correct, that's about 8600 damage, so into an empty board, Ash still gets you the OTK. And now that we've gone over the reworks of previous combos, let me show you guys one that I didn't showcase in the last one, and that is going to be what a lot of people consider to be the best one-card combo with Ash. The reason that this is considered the best is because it plays through the most interactions and ends you on the best end board while doing so. So we are going to start off by normal summoning out our Ash Blossom, and same as always, that is going to search for our Poplar. Poplar is going to summon itself, and on summon, search the Divine Temple. Here we'll use the Divine Temple. This is of course going to place our copy of Oak into the Spell and Trap zone, and then now we can do the same thing that we did in the last combo. We're going to go ahead and use the Ash to send itself and Oak. This is of course going to summon out our copy of Flamberge. Now this is still under Nibiru, so we're going to play it the exact same way, using the Flamberge and the Poplar. We're going to go ahead and link those off into our copy of IP Masquerena. That will make the Flamberge chain 1 and the Poplar chain 2, targeting the Flamberge. Flamberge goes into our Spell and Trap zone, now making us pseudo-immune to Nibiru, and then the Flamberge is going to summon out 2 level 1s, one of which is Oak to summon out the 3rd level 1. Now, if you think that they might have the Nibiru and you want to just eliminate it as a threat entirely, you just take the Masquerena and these two, because you need to leave the Oak on field, and go directly into a 3-material Appaloosa. If you don't think they have the Nibiru, or you're not worried about it because maybe you have something in hand to handle it, or you know that you have the ability to continue playing with the Flamberge, what I like to do first is I can go ahead and go into the Linkuriboh, just because the Linkuriboh adds a layer of more disruption, or not necessarily disruption, but protection for your end board as well. But now that we've reached the spot, we're going to use the IP, the Linkuriboh, and the Ash, and this is going to go ahead and summon out a 3-material Appaloosa. Now what we're going to do is, using the effect of Oak, we're going to send itself and the Flamberge, because we no longer need to leave the Flamberge there, now that we have a actual negate for Nibiru. This is going to summon another copy of Flamberge from our deck, and using this Flamberge, we can go ahead and place the IP Masquerena into our Spell and Trap zone, and that is going to be the end board off of just 1 Ash. We have 3 monster negates in the Appaloosa. We have the ability to summon the Masquerena using either the field spell or the Flamberge. Of course, that's going to allow us to go into an SP using the Flamberge, and the Flamberge is of course going to summon from the graveyard, giving us full follow-up, because we're going to get an Ash search, we're going to get a Poplar search, we're going to get the original Sinful Spoils off the Poplar, and we're just going to have the full combo, so no matter what our opponent does, we are in a very good position. Now for this next combo, it is an interaction on how to play through specifically Droll and Lockbird, and I figured we'd talk about it while we're talking about the 1-card Ash combos, but this is the reason that a lot of players have not really been too keen on Droll in this format, because even through Droll you are able to set up one hell of a board. So let's show you guys what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and summon the Ash Blossom, and that is going to activate its effect to add the Poplar. Now because you are turn player, Poplar becomes Chain Link 1, but now let's say here your opponent chains the Droll and Lockbird. You can no longer add cards, meaning that you're not going to get the add off of the Poplar summon. So Droll resolves, the Poplar summons, and you might be thinking that you're dead in the water, but thankfully you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to link off the Poplar into the copy of Linkuriboh and activate the graveyard effect of Poplar to place itself back into the Spell and Trap zone. Here we can use the effect of Ash. This is going to send itself and the Poplar and summon out the Oak from the deck, which will then activate the Oak to summon back either of your level 1s. It does not matter which one. Here we can use the Oak effect to send itself and the Linkuriboh. This is going to summon out the Flamberge from our deck, and then we can use the Flamberge and whatever level 1 we resummoned this is going to go ahead and go into our copy of IP Masquerena. Now we of course have the effect of the Flamberge Dragon to summon back out 2 of our level 1s. Does not matter which ones we use because all of our effects now have been spent, but we can then use the IP and either of our level 1s. This is of course going to go into our copy of Princess. Princess here can reborn out our Flamberge, and then of course the Flamberge will be able to use its effect and place the IP Masquerena into our spell and trap zone. Next up, we take the Princess and the Poplar. This is going to link off into a Raging Phoenix because we need to get out of our Firelock, and then using the Raging Phoenix, we can go ahead and link into our copy of Zealantis. Now, what we did is the reason we are ending on this board is not only does it give us the Princess live and grave, but we also play around something like Super Poly because nothing on our board is able to be Super Polyed. But the cool part is before you end your turn, you're actually going to activate the effect of Zealantis. This is going to banish both of your monsters and then resummon them back to your side of the field, and that's cool for a myriad of reasons. The most important of which is now that you have the Zealantis pointing both sideways, when you use the IP Masquerena to go into something like an SP, or when you reborn out your Princess, you will have co-linked monsters to your Zealantis, meaning that in your opponent's battle phase, if they're not able to clear the Zealantis, you have additional pops as well. So we have the interruptions with the IP and the Flamberge, the guaranteed follow-up off the Flamberge summoning back your level 1s, the ability to pop monsters using the Promethean Princess, as well as the battle phase pops off of Zealantis, and all of that was done through Droll and Lockbird. Now, I want to show you guys the exact same combo, but what happens if you actually just have Poplar, because just normal summoning Poplar can play through the Droll as well. Let's show you guys how it's done. So for the next interaction, we're going to show you that the Poplar does exactly as I just said. Just normal summoning the Poplar plays through Droll and gets you into that exact same end board. If your only playable move is to normal summon the Poplar, that is going to change the Poplar search target from the Temple to the original Sinful Spoils because you need a way to continue to play. We're going to go ahead and link off the Poplar into our copy of Linkuriboh, which is then going to activate the Poplar to place itself back in the spell trap zone. We're going to go ahead and activate our original Sinful Spoils, sending the Poplar. This is going to summon out our copy of Oak and activate the Oak effect to resummon out our Poplar. Now we are at the exact same board that we were at previously. We can use the Oak to send itself and the Linkuriboh to, of course, summon out our Flamberge. We're going to go ahead and link the Flamberge and the Poplar into our copy of IP Masquerena. That is going to activate the effect of Flamberge to summon back out 2 level 1 fires. Taking the IP and 1 of the level 1 fires, this is of course going to go into Princess. Princess is of course going to resummon out our Flamberge. Flamberge is then going to place the IP in the spell trap zone. We can use the Princess and the other level 1 that we still have left to go into our Raging Phoenix. Raging Phoenix to then go ahead into the Zealantis, and then using the Zealantis effect, banish our monsters, bring them back, making sure that we have the Zealantis having both sides open for the follow-up. And again, it's the same end board through Droll. Droll does not matter against this deck, and you guys just really needed to know how to play through it. And while we're talking about interactions through specific hand traps, we're going to show you guys what to do if you get Dimension Shifted. A lot of people don't know that Dimension Shifter, while detrimental for this deck, isn't a flat-out turn skip because it gives you plenty of things that you are able to do. Well, really only one thing, but it gives you a good amount of follow-up. So if you get Dimension Shifted, obviously all of your stuff is going to get banished. But thankfully for us, Snake Eye has a way to recur banished cards. So we're going to go ahead and summon out our Ash, and that is going to then activate to search the Poplar. Poplar is going to summon itself and activate to search for the Temple. Now that we have Temple, we can go ahead and activate it, and this will place the Oak into our spell and trap zone, and then now we only have one more move for our turn, and that is using the Ash and the Poplar to go ahead and link into our copy of IP Masquerena, and this is going to be the end of our board. Now, we do still have 4 cards in hand, so hopefully we have some hand traps to deal with our opponent, but even if we don't, this is still a formidable board in and of its own, because when our opponent summons, so let me just preface this, everything you are seeing from this point on is happening on the opponent's turn. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, well, you can't do that, blah, 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 because it's still your turn. No, this is the opponent's turn from this point on. When your opponent summons, you will use the effect of Temple to summon out your copy of Oak. Now that Oak is summoned, it can either add or summon from your graveyard or your banished. So even though the D-Shifter banished our cards, we can go ahead and use the Oak to summon out the copy of Ash. Now Ash has two options here. You can either search the Poplar and let the Poplar summon itself and then get a search that way, or if you want more guaranteed follow-up, Ash is actually one of the cards that can search for itself. So you can go ahead and search either one of these two cards off of the Ash. And now that we actually have IP plus 2 monsters, that opens up what we are able to do. We can either go for our SP Little Knight, which is going to be 2 interactions because of the banish on summon, as well as the banish when your opponent activates an effect, or we can go into a 3 material Appaloosa for 3 monster negates. So that's really just a judgment call depending on what you're up against. If you're playing against something like Fluanderies, the Appaloosa is probably the better option, because being able to have negates against Fluanderies, then yeah, I mean, you're probably just going to win. But if you're up against something like Kashtira, then the SP Little Knight's probably the better option, because you'll be able to banish one of their monsters on summon, and then not just that, but if they try to do something like activate Theosis, you can banish the target for the Theosis, and then Theosis won't be able to resolve properly. So it really just depends on the matchup, and the reason I'm using those two examples is because those are the 2 Shifter decks that we are seeing a lot of in the format. But at the end of the day, Shifter wasn't just a turn skip. You still set up a relatively decent board depending on what you're against, and you get your guaranteed follow-up for the next turn when Shifter is no longer live. For the next combo, we're going to show you how strong a single copy of Diabellstar plus a discard for its summon can be, because if you remember the 1-card Ash combo that a lot of players consider to be the best one, this is actually equally as good, if not better, because if you remember during that combo earlier in the video, we actually didn't get our way into Princess, but this combo gets our way into Princess, meaning that we add an additional interruption to the end board and still have the exact same field. So let's show you guys how it works. Obviously, we are going to discard our card to summon out our Black Witch, and then the Black Witch is going to set our copy of Original Sinful Spoils from our deck to our side of the field. We can go ahead and activate the Original Sinful Spoils, sending the Black Witch as cost, and this is of course going to summon out our copy of Snake Eye Ash. Snake Eye Ash here is going to be able to use its effect and add our copy of Poplar, and then Poplar is going to summon itself out and use its on-summon effect to add our copy of Temple. Now again, this is Nibbed proof the same way that the original combo was, because we have the access to the Temple. We're going to go ahead and Temple here, and this is going to place our Oak from our deck to our field, and then using the effect of Ash, we're going to go ahead and send Oak to summon out our Flameburge. Now, we are Nibiruable, but we don't really care because we have the Flameburge to summon 2 back, so I mean, actually, no, we're not Nibiruable yet. This was only summon number 4, but this is where it gets cool. We're going to use the Flameburge and the Pop, and this is going to go into IP, and this is where we become Nibiruable. But since we are turn player, we will use chain 1 Flameburge, chain 2 Pop, so even if they Nibiru us here, the IP goes to the grave, we summon back 2 level 1s, and then we have the 2 level 1s in the token, and we full combo. Or if they don't Nibiru us here, the Flameburge goes to the spell trap zone, we summon back our 2 level 1s, one of which is Oak. Oak is going to summon, and then if they Nibiru us here, we just use the Temple to summon the Flameburge, and everything that I showed you guys previously is still in effect. Now here we are going to take our Poplar, and this is going to go into our copy of Linkuriboh, and then using the Masquerena and the Linkuriboh, this is going to go into our copy of Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess here is going to reborn out our Poplar, and then what we want to do is we want to take the Princess and either the Poplar or the Ash, leaving the Oak because the Oak is still live on field. We need to get out of that pesky Firelock, and that is going to summon out our copy of Hida. Again, unfortunate that we have to waste the Hida, but in this instance it actually pays off for us, because we're going to take the Hida and our Ash, and since Hida is a spellcaster, that is going to summon out our Selene. Selene will of course activate on summon to gain spell counters equal to the number of spells on the field and in the graveyard, and because this is treated as a continuous spell, that actually puts our number exactly at 3. We have the 1, 2, and 3, so now we have the 3 counters which we can then remove to summon out our copy of Black Witch. Now that we have the Black Witch back on our field, using the Selene and the Diabellstar, we can go ahead and make a 2-material Appaloosa, albeit 1 less negate, but a little bit better for playing into something like Talents, because you don't want your opponent to Talents an Appaloosa that has multiple negates for you to have to deal with. But now that we have our Appaloosa and no longer need to leave this in the spell trap zone for the effect of Temple to keep us safe from Nibiru, we can use the effect of Oak, sending itself and the Flamberge. This is going to summon out our second Flamberge, and then of course the Flamberge is going to be able to place our IP Masquerena back into our spell and trap zone, again leaving us with the same board. We have multiple negates on the Appaloosa, the Temple and the Flamberge to summon the IP. The IP goes into the SP, the Flamberge is able to resummon your level 1s, you just get guaranteed follow-up, and it's even better because now you have the original Sinful Spoils, meaning it's additional follow-up on the next turn as well. Now we're going to get into some of the spicier lines of play, and these are the plays that I love because we are going to be utilizing Magician Souls. Now, Magician Souls is a card that some players have tested with, and ultimately you don't see a lot of people playing it, but I will stand by the fact that if not for Magician Souls, I would not have topped the Utah Regional, because this card is not only incredible as an extender. When you get hand trapped, you are able to continue playing and then draw additional cards. You can send your Flamberge to then summon stuff, but it's also an incredible combo piece, as you'll see here. So we're going to start off the combo by normal summoning out the Ash and doing the same thing that we've been doing this entire time. Ash adds Poplar, Poplar summons itself, Poplar adds the Temple, and now because we have Temple, this combo is completely Nibbed proof. We're going to activate the Temple, and instead of going for Oak, we're actually going to go for the Flamberge. This is important for later on down the combo, as we want to be able to summon the Oak from the deck, and we want to keep the Flamberge here to be able to play around Nibiru. What we're going to do here is using the Poplar and the Ash, we're actually just going to link instead of using the Ash effect. This is going to go into the IP Masquerena, and it is very, very important here that you use the Poplar effect to place itself in the spell trap zone, because we need to have 3 spells. We're going to go ahead and summon out the Magician Souls by sending the Black Witch to our graveyard as cost, and then now if you have any spell traps in your hand that you don't need, you can go ahead and gain some advantage by discarding them to draw, or if you don't have any to send, that's fine too, because what we're going to do now is using the IP and our souls, we're going to go ahead and go into a copy of Selene. Here, because we have 3 with the field spell and the 2 continuous spells, we will have 3 counters for the Selene. This is going to allow us to summon out the Diabellstar that we sent off cost for the Magician Souls. And now that the Diabellstar was summoned, it of course gets its effect. This is going to set the original Sinful Spoils from our deck to our side of the field. Now, again, we are Nibiruable, but it doesn't matter because we have the Divine Temple. So what we can do here to guarantee that Nibiru is no longer an issue, we're going to take the Selene and the Diabellstar, and this is going to go into a 2-material Appaloosa. Now that we have an Appaloosa, we are absolutely free to just go ahead and use the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. This is going to go ahead and get rid of our Poplar to summon out our copy of Oak. Now that we have the Oak, we're going to activate its effect to summon back out one of our level 1s. It does not matter which one, but we can then use the Oak to send itself and the Flamberge, and this is going to allow us to summon a second Flamberge from the deck. Now we have the Flamberge that we just sent being able to activate its effect, summoning out 2 of our level 1 fires. We should only have 2 left at this point, but now that we have 3 monsters that we don't necessarily care about, we're going to go ahead and link these off into our copy of Princess. Princess, of course, can go ahead and reborn any one of them, does not matter which one. We can then take whatever one we reborn and Princess. This will go into our Raging Phoenix. The Raging Phoenix will then go into the Zealantis, again making sure it's co-linked, that way we can utilize the destructions during our opponent's battle phase. And to finish off the turn, we are going to go ahead and use the Flamberge to place the Masquerena back into our spell and trap zone, leaving us with an incredible field. We have the 2 negates off the Appaloosa, we have the IP, the Flamberge resummoning, we have the guaranteed follow-up off of what the Flamberge summons, we have the Princess to pop, we have the follow-up with the Snake Eye spell, and it's just an incredible board, all because we had the Magician Souls on top of the Snake Eye Ash. Now, backing up a little bit, believe it or not, that combo gets slightly crazier if you have access to either Bonfire or 1-for-1 and a discard in place of that Snake Eye Ash, because this gives you an additional spell to kind of play around your Selene a little bit differently. So we're going to start by activating our Bonfire or our 1-for-1, which is of course going to get us access to our Snake Eye Ash. when the Snake Eye Ash is summoned, it's going to add the Poplar. Poplar is going to summon. Poplar effect adds the Temple. And now here we're going to play it very similarly to how we would normally play the single Snake Eye Ash combo. We're just going to sequence it a little bit different down the road. We're going to go ahead and activate the Temple, and this time it is going to place the Oak, and that is going to then get us into that Nibiru-proof line that we've shown previously. Using the Ash and the Oak, we are going to go ahead and summon out the Flamberge. We're going to go ahead and link the Poplar and the Flamberge into our copy of IP, and that is then going to chainlink one Flamberge, chainlink two Poplar. Poplar will set the Flamberge to the spell trap zone, and then we summon out two of our level 1s, one of which is Oak, to go ahead and get us our third level 1 on the field as well. Now here is where we are going to summon out our souls by sending the Diabellstar as cost from our deck to our graveyard, and then we can take the IP and the souls and go ahead and go into our Selene. Now we do have 3 because we started with either Bonfire or 1-for-1, plus the field spell and the Flamberge, so that's going to have the 3 material that we need to then go ahead and remove the spell counters to summon out the Diabellstar. Diabellstar will activate on summon to get our original Sinful Spoils and set it from our deck. So now we're going to sequence it a little bit differently because we want to leave the Diabellstar on the field. So instead of linking it away, we're going to use the Selene and our Poplar, and this is what's going to get us access into our 2 material Appaloosa. So what we can do from here is we can go ahead and activate the original Sinful Spoils, sending the Snake Eye Ash to the grave. This is going to summon out our copy of Jet Synchron. Now that we have a level 1 tuner and our Diabellstar, you guessed it, we can go ahead and synchro summon into a copy of Savage Dragon. And here, Savage Dragon actually has a pretty beefy Link monster that we can equip in Selene. So now, instead of a 1 negate Savage Dragon, we have a 3 negate Savage Dragon. To finish up the combo, we're going to go ahead and use the Oak, sending itself and the Flamberge. This is what's going to summon out our second Flamberge from the deck, and using the Flamberge on field effect, we're going to go ahead and place the IP Masquerena back into our spell and trap zone, ending us on the same interaction as the final, or the last combo that we did, albeit with a 3 negate Savage Dragon on top of it as well. For this next one, while niche, I think it is very important to know because of how early it puts an Omni Negate on your field and how incredible the end board is because of that Omni Negate. It's going to be a 3-card combo. You need the Black Witch and the Poplar, which are absolutely set in stone. The Poplar could be like the Bonfire or whatever, but you're not actually going to summon the Poplar if you add it. And the last card has to be a level 3 tuner, so Ash Blossom, Ghost Bell, Ghost Mourner, any of those hand traps that you are playing. Yes, you do have to get rid of one of your hand traps, but it is in exchange for an Omni Negate. So we're going to show you guys how it works. We are going to summon out the Black Witch by sending the Poplar, and this is cool because it allows you to chain block the Black Witch. Using her as Chainlink 1 and Poplar as Chainlink 2, Poplar is going to place itself in the spell trap zone, and then we are going to be able to set the original Sinful Spoils from our deck to our side of the field. Now, to ensure that we are able to play the remainder of our turn, we are going to go ahead and normal summon out our level 3 tuner, and we are going to take that and the Diabellstar, and that is going to go into our copy of Baron de Fleur, meaning that we get an instant Omni Negate. Here, what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and use the original Sinful Spoils to send the Poplar to the graveyard, and that is going to summon out our copy of Oak. Oak will then activate on summon to summon out our Poplar, and now we can finally use the Poplar summon effect to search. Here we are going to search for the Temple. We'll go ahead and activate the Temple, and here we are going to place the Ash. Now the roles are a little bit reversed, whereas normally we have the Ash and the Oak in the spell trap zone. Now we have the Oak on field and the Ash in the spell and trap zone. Using the Oak effect, we're going to go ahead and send itself and the Ash. This is of course going to summon out our Flamberge, and then we're going to sequence it relatively the same from here. We're going to use the Poplar and the Flamberge. This is going to go ahead and go into our IP, and then the IP is going to be able to resummon 2 of our level 1s, whereas typically we want to make sure 1 is the Oak. Here we have to make sure that 1 is the Ash, the other one does not matter. The reason that's important is because we haven't used either of Ash's effects yet, so we're going to use Ash, and this is going to search for our copy of Birch, which is very important for this combo. Here what we are going to do is we're going to take IP and 1 of our level 1 monsters, not the Ash because we haven't used the Ash effect yet, and this is going to go into our Princess. Princess is then going to be able to summon back out our Flamberge, and the Flamberge can use its effect to place the IP back in the spell and trap zone. Here we want to make sure that we get out of our our Firelock, so we're going to use the Princess and the Flamberge, and this is going to go into our copy of Hida. Now, before we get rid of our Ash, because we want to ensure that we still have it live, we're actually going to summon out our Birch because we control a fire monster, and that allows us to use the Hida and the Birch. Again, Hida is a spellcaster. This goes into our copy of Selene. Thanks to the Temple, the IP, and then of course our original in Graveyard, we have 3 counters on the Selene. We can go ahead and remove those 3 counters to summon back out our Diabellstar. Here, the Diabellstar and the Selene are going to go into our 2-material Appaloosa, and to finish off the turn, we want to take the Ash, sending itself and the Temple, which, yeah, we kind of lose the Temple, but it's not that bad, to summon back out our copy of Flameburge, and that will end our turn. Now we have an Omni Negate with the Baron de Fleur, we have 2 Monster Negates with the Appaloosa, we have our IP, which our Flamberge can still summon despite us not having the Temple, our Flamberge is going to get us guaranteed follow-up, and we have the Princess live engraved for additional destructions as well, and the final follow-up is going to be the original Sinful Spoils, making this an absolutely crazy end board for your opponent to have to deal with. And before we get into this final combo, I did just want to thank you guys so much if you are still here. I know it's been a long video, but when I sat down to make this, there was just so many combos and interactions that I wanted to show you guys. I could not condense this into a shorter video. I think that knowledge is incredibly important, especially if you are trying to play on a competitive level. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this so far. Let's show you guys that last combo. While it is another one of those niche combos, I still think it is important to know, and that is using the Diabellstar. You can have either Effect Veiler or Jet Synchron and a discard. Now, Effect Veiler or Jet Synchron will work in the same way, albeit the sequencing is a little different, but we will go over it as it comes up. So we are going to start things off by using the Black Witch to summon itself by discarding our card. Now here we are discarding our random discard, but if you have the Jet Synchron, you're going to go ahead and discard the Jet Synchron here, keeping whatever your other discard is for later on for the summon of Jet Synchron. This is of course going to activate the effect of the Diabellstar to set our original Sinful Spoils from our deck to our side of the field. We can then go ahead and activate it, sending the copy of the Diabellstar. This is going to summon out our Snake Eye Ash, and now we are in the same position that we've been in this entire time. We're going to go ahead and use the Snake Eye Ash to add Poplar. Poplar is going to summon itself using its on-summon effect to add Temple. Temple we are going to activate, and this is going to place the Oak from our deck to our side of the field. Again, full combo plays around Nibiru. We're going to go ahead and use the effect of our Ash to send itself in the Oak. This is going to summon out our Flamberge, and then same as before, using the Flamberge and the Poplar, we are going to go ahead and link into our copy of IP. This is going to activate the Flamberge as Chainlink 1 and Poplar as Chainlink 2, targeting the Flamberge. Flamberge goes into our Spell and Trap zone. We summon 2 of our level 1s, one of which is the Oak. That way the Oak is then able to summon out the 3rd. Here we are going to use any of our level 1s except for the Oak and go into our copy of Linkuriboh, and then using the IP and the Linkuriboh, we are going to go into our copy of Princess. Now here we are going to use our Princess to reborn one of our fires. The only one we should have is the Poplar because we have not yet put a Flamberge into the grave, and that is going to then allow us to use the Poplar and the Princess to go into our copy of Hida. Here we can use the Hida, again being a spellcaster, along with our Ash, to go into our copy of Selene, and then we have the 1, 2, 3 spells live, meaning that we have the 3 counters necessary to remove in order to summon back out our Black Witch. Now here's where the combo differs from the last one. Here, if we have the Veiler, we're just going to go ahead and normal summon it because we have not normal summoned yet for our turn. If we had the Jet Synchron earlier on, we're going to go ahead and summon it by discarding whatever that last card is. But now that we have gotten to this point, we have a level 1 tuner along with our Black Witch. We're going to go ahead and synchro summon those into our copy of Borreload Savage Dragon, and we're going to activate the effect of Savage Dragon, this time attaching the Hida. So now what we can do that we have an Omni Negate and we are no longer in fear of Nibiru, we don't need the Temple to summon our Flamberge, we can use the Oak sending itself and the Flamberge. This, of course, summons out our second Flamberge from our deck, and using the Flamberge, we can go ahead and place our IP in our spell and trap zone, and that is going to end our turn. And while we don't have an Appaloosa, we have the Temple and the Flamberge, which can summon out the IP, and the IP in tandem with the Selene and the Flamberge can go ahead and make the Appaloosa, or if you feel like you don't need the Appaloosa, you can go ahead and summon out your Little Knight. Of course, that's going to give you interruptions depending on what you're up against. The Flamberge is, of course, going to have your full follow-up by summoning your level 1s, which will get their effects. You, of course, have the Omni Negate in the Savage Dragon, and you still have your Princess in live as well, leaving just so many things that your opponent has to deal with, and I think that that's just an incredible combo. And there you guys have it. Again, if you stuck through it with the entire video, thank you guys so much. This has been a passion project of mine. I absolutely love the Pure Snake Eye deck, and again, I wanted to bring you guys as much knowledge as I possibly could. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and as always, do not forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard. Using code INSANE18, you can get 5% off your entire order, or you can use my link in the description down below to apply the discount automatically. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.